Welcome to UCTV Sports Men's Basketball Season Preview. I'm your host, Noam, joined by Josh Schlactus and Jacob Sondik. And right now, we're going to jump into talking UConn men's hoops. It's Dan Hurley's fourth year at the helm of the Huskies and UConn's second year in the Big East, but they're first with fans back in the stands. UConn will host first night inside Gampel Pavilion on Friday, October 15th, and the Huskies will open their season November 9th against in-state opponent Central Connecticut, again inside Gampel Pavilion. Then their Big East slate kicks off December 18th against Providence, downtown in Hartford at the XL Center. So my first question to you guys, Josh, we'll go to you first. What stands out to you on this schedule?
So obviously you start off most seasons and pretty much every basketball season with a non-conference schedule. This year, the same. You have a bunch of teams that I think UConn could pretty handily beat. But then we have a stretch of non-conference games that are incredibly challenging, specifically in comparison to the rest of the Big East. You look at the Battle for Atlantis being the main major attraction. We automatically play a game against Auburn in that, which has the number 6th ranked recruit in the country this year, Jabari Smith. Then we play either Michigan State or Loyola Chicago, both of which were tournament teams last year. And then we have an option of playing one of 4 other teams, one being Baylor. We all know what they did last year, national champions. One being Syracuse. We always have a good game against Syracuse. It's always fun when we play them. One being Arizona State, and then another being VCU. We'll play one of those 4 teams to kind of round out the final of the Battle for Atlantis. Of course, Arizona State. Let's not forget Bobby Hurley there. But I think that adds 3 games of really difficult non-conference play. And then you have St. Bonaventure in the Never Forget Classic. That's going to be a tough game. They were a tournament team. They get even better this year because they don't have any graduating seniors from last year's team. And then you have West Virginia, which is a consistent threat in the Big 12, a really good basketball conference. And, of course, another tournament team from last season that should be should be playing really well this coming season.
And Jacob, what about you? Your thoughts?
So, Josh hit on the non-conference schedule. I'm just excited to play Villanova and Creighton. I mean, they've run the Big East for a couple years now since our return, and the Creighton beating us the last 3 years just left a sour taste in my mouth. I don't think they were that much of a better team. I know the team is going to be worse this year, so UConn might have the upper hand, but I think that's like a big mental boost if they can get off the schneid versus Creighton, and they play those teams the first time back-to-back. And the second time, it's again in the same stretch. It's twice in 3 games. So I think that will show how back we are in the Big East. And also coming out of the new year strong after playing the first couple Big East games, because in the past we've seen them struggle out of the gate. I mean, last year they got off to a good start after the new year, winning the first 3. That crazy comeback win against Marquette, the Tyler Polley game, I'll always remember it as. And if they can start the new year off on a hot streak and carry that momentum over into the Nova and Creighton and Providence and St. John's, teams that they're trying to contend for spots in the Big East. So I think those are the keys there.
One of my takeaways early on is their home non-conference schedule is brutally bad. They don't play a single team from a Power 5 conference at home, and I mean, it's a little disappointing as a senior.
It stinks, yeah.
Yeah, like there's nothing to look forward to in the non-conference schedule at home. You know, they got the Atlantis games, they got the St. Bonaventure game, but where's the marquee Florida matchup or Texas or someone big inside Gampel Pavilion in the month of November?
Even the MSG, like we don't have any. I mean, like we had that Indiana game last year, which was awesome to have in December against a good Indiana team, and it's always a home game when we're at an MSG.
Yeah, all the games I mentioned before are away games, either in Atlantis, New Jersey, or of course West Virginia. So it is tough.
So next up, this is going to be a big storyline for the team this season, and that's replacing James Bouknight. Went to the NBA draft, number 11 pick to the Charlotte Hornets. That's a lottery pick, a little lower than we expected or hoped that he would go. But how do the Huskies plan to fill the scoring void of Bouknight, who scored 18.7 points per game last season and had a 40-piece in the Big East opener against Creighton? We'll go to you first again, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's by committee. At this point, we cannot sit here and say that there's going to be a player that is as good of a scorer as James Bouknight on this team. It simply isn't there. No, all the guys are great. They're great players. None of them are James Bouknight in terms of getting the ball into the basket. But we do have a lot of really good players who filled in very well when Bouknight was hurt last year, who are kind of have to take that next step, add a few points to their totals. You have R.J. Cole, you have Adama Sanogo, you have Tyrese Martin, you have Tyler Polley. You have the freshmen. You never know which one of them can kind of step into a little role. I think Jordan Hawkins, probably in my opinion, is going to take that leap into a really good, strong freshman campaign. You have Andre Jackson. Is he going to put some things together? Is he going to start scoring more? You never know. What I do know, though, is that we saw an uptick in scoring specifically from RJ and Tyrese when Bouknight was hurt. I think we're going to see the exact same thing from them this time, and I think Adama is going to have a breakout year.
Yeah, Adama Sanogo, definitely one of my players to watch for.
Yeah, I mean, like Coach Hurley said, it's perfect segue into what I was thinking. I think they're gonna play through Sanogo. I mean, if your coach says you're the guy as an underclassman, you're the guy, and he's so big and so good inside that not only is he gonna put the ball in the basket and draw fouls, teams in the Big East, and even not the non-conference games we talked about, they're gonna double him in the paint, and that gives guys like Cole and Polly and Martin and Gaffney and hopefully Andre Jackson some open mid-range and three-point shots that can bounce the scoring attack for UConn. So I think it's going to be a lot by committee, but playing through someone like Sanogo is going to be huge because he opens up the floor. Because teams focus, they're going to know they know how good he is. I think they know how good he is. If not, they haven't been watching film.
Yeah.
So I think play through Sanogo, and the other guys will fill in quite nicely around him.
Yeah, so that actually, you guys lead me purposely into the next question. It's almost like you guys saw the script beforehand or something. But let's move along to the rest of the roster. Who are some of the players you're, expecting and counting on to take that leap, whether it's a freshman to sophomore leap, a high school to college leap, or even a leap like RJ Cole, taking it from last season's play to more of what we saw when he was back at Howard?
I think it's got to be Andre Jackson. I mean, he was so much hype around this kid for good reason. I mean, he's an athletic freak, amazing on defense, putting him on top when they did the 1-2-2 three-quarter court or full court press. I mean, his arms and his speed, it was a nightmare for teams. And I think the key for him is to play within himself and not force crazy threes that end up airballing or hitting the side of the backboard, because that's not his game, and we don't need that to be his game. That's why we got Polly back. That's why we got RJ. I think he needs to take the ball inside, put guys on posters, draw fouls, keep that same intensity on the defensive end, and he'll take a big leap forward. There's a reason why he was a top 100 recruit. Rome wasn't built in a day, and the fact that he wasn't great last year, I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to have a breakout year and be a key factor for the Huskies' successes and hopefully not failures.
And what about RJ Cole? You mentioned him briefly as a shooter.
Yeah, UConn's been built on historically has been built on strong guard play, and RJ Cole's a bucket, man. I mean, he can score from mid-range. His three-point shot, he shot almost 40% last year from three. So I think it's gonna be his team. He's going to be their top, I think he's going to lead the team in points, in my opinion, because the volume of shots are just going to be there, and I think teams are going to notice that. So it's going to be a lot of contested shots, I think, but I think he has to also play within himself, and he'll lead the Huskies to good offensive success.
And Josh, what do you think? Who are you looking for to step up?
Well, one thing I want to point out Andre real quick before, he's an elite level passer, and I think that cannot go unnoticed. He's an elite level passer. He needs to continue that. But the guy I really want to focus in on is Adama, mainly because I think he has the opportunity and the potential and the ability to be a first-team Big East kind of player this season. He is that good. We saw the improvements he made from the beginning of last year to the end of last season, and it was night and day. He came in as a freshman. He took over halfway through the season, taking that starting role and running away with it. He had some great games down the stretch, and I think that adding another year of strength training, another year of polish to his game, he is going to be an incredible player. Watch out for Adama Sanogo to kind of take that next leap into stardom. And then, of course, I want to kind of mention two other guys, Jalen Gaffney and Akok. Let's start with Akok because we haven't seen him since freshman year. I know we saw him for a couple of games last year, but we haven't seen Akok, what he can do since his freshman year when he led the team in blocks on a team that was fourth in the nation, that 2019 Husky team, fourth in the nation in blocks. And I think it's going to continue. Have him and Whaley together. We'll get to that in a bit, but I think he's going to be a great defensive presence, and he's going to be an even more polished offensive player. Gaffney, too, he needs a little bit more confidence when he has the ball because he can shoot. He's a really good shooter. He's really good at managing a game. He's a good point guard. And I think that if he just kind of takes a little bit more ownership and confidence when he has the ball, he can make a really big leap and be a really strong presence for us this year.
Yeah, 2 points to jump off of for me. Adama Sanogo, if he can stay out of foul trouble this year, he's going to be a first-team All-Big East caliber player. period.
Easy.
It's just if he can stay out of foul trouble. And that's something he's been working on all offseason long. Playing defense more with his legs, less with his hands. None of those ticky-tack fouls when he hedges out on ball screens, stuff like that. And Isaiah Whaley's a great guy to learn from when you talk about hedging out on ball screens. Tops in the nation, honestly. A cook, blocking shots. You said they were 4th in the nation in 2019 in block shots. In reports from practice are that a Cook is blocking everything in sight. So I think a Cook is back. We're going to see 2 to 3 blocks per game from him. That's going to be ridiculous. So on the defensive side, you have the reigning Big East Defensive Player of the Year in Isaiah Whaley back. For his 5th year, he took that added year of eligibility from COVID. You have a Cook back at full strength, 20 months post-Achilles tear. And you have Adama Sanogo poised for a big year. And factor in Samson Johnson, who Dan Hurley said a couple of weeks ago has wall potential as an All-American or an NBA draft lottery pick. That's a loaded front court. How good can this team be defensively?
I think that they are, without a doubt, no question, the best defensive team in the Big East. It's not even close. I think that you take the combination of defensive stardom in terms of Whaley, in terms of a Cook, and then the depth that they have in terms of Adama, in terms of Samson, in terms of, we never know, are we going to see Richie Springs? You never know. But the fact of the matter is, they're at least 4 players deep in terms of impact down low post defenders. They have Andre, who's a really good wing defender, and I guarantee he will be placed against the best of the best players in the Big East on the wing side. The Champagnes of the world, the Colin Gillespies of the world. Those guys are going to be guarded by Andre Jackson. And I think all of that together is going to make a really impressive defensive front for the Huskies this year that not only is going to top the Big East, in my opinion, I think they're going to be one of the best defenses in the nation.
Yeah, I agree. Bless you, by the way. I agree. I agree with that. I think the best UConn teams are the ones that grit and grind. They're not flashy offensively, historically, and that's how they won the chips. And the interior, the depth, you said, I think guys, if they get into foul trouble, it's not the end of the world because they're going to have games with foul trouble. It's not the end of the world because they have guys behind them that can step up and play just as good of defense, maybe if not better, depending on the matchup and depending on how those guys are playing. So I think they're going to have more freedom to maybe play a little more aggressive. There's a difference between playing aggressive and playing out of control, like we've seen. Yeah. But I think that aggressiveness is going to be turned up because they know that they're not going to have to play 35 to 40 minutes a game because there's so much depth there, specifically down low, like you talked about. So I agree. I think top of the Big East, not a doubt. And I think if they're up there in the terms of the whole nation, the sky's the limit for this squad. As long as they hit their shots and don't force threes, that's not the team we are. We have a couple guys that can do that. I think the sky's the limit.
Dan Hurley always talks about winning games in the 60s. He doesn't want to have to play games in the 70s or the 80s because his offenses are just not built for that. So the question is, Josh, you said UConn can be tops in the Big East, even up there in the best defenses in the nation. Question for me is, can their offense match that performance? Can they put up enough points to grind out those close 65, 61 games? Or if they get into the upper 60s, can they crack 70 and put up 72, 74 and beat a tough team like Villanova, beat a tough team like Xavier or Seton Hall?
I think it's really interesting with this team because the depth, not only defensively, but offensively is there. Think about all the players we had last season, like RJ, like Tyrese, like Jalen Gaffney, all of these guys who really picked up the pace offensively when Bouknight was out, specifically Tyler Polley we saw. Now add in guys like Jordan Hawkins, like Rasul Diggins, the freshman coming in, Samson Johnson. You get improvements from these older players who kind of have another year and an offseason under their belt. Corey Floyd now. I think that the thing that's going to bring these Huskies offense into that amazing ability to win those 60 to 65 point games is the fact that they are so deep, they don't have to worry about benching guys, and that's going to hurt the team. When Bouknight was out, it hurt the team. It just did. But we don't have that situation this year because we have 13 legitimate players, all of whom are capable college athletes. And I think that is incredibly important, specifically in trying to win games like Hurley likes to do it. If you're trying to go to 80 or 90 points, I don't know if this is the team for that. You need a guy who can score 20 points a game. We don't have that. What we do have is a strong collection of solid scorers and possibly Jordan Hawkins' breakout candidate. I'm just saying. But exactly, they'll be able to edge those out.
You said Corey Floyd for the first time in this show. Do you think Corey Floyd's going to get minutes this year? He reclassified, came to campus this summer, has been working out, practicing fully with the team, but he's a bit of a question mark. He was a big recruit that Hurley landed. Do you think he's going to see the court much this year?
I don't think he'll see it a ton. I mean, he's talented. He's so talented. Like we know. I mean, to reclassify it and come up is ridiculous. But I mean, we have those veteran guards that, like, this is RJ's last year. I mean, this Gaffney's an upperclassman now. I don't think the need is there, which is good for everyone involved, honestly. I mean, I think maybe we'll see him against Central. I think that's safe to say, and we'll see him against, I think, in the non-conference teams and maybe the lower leverage conference games, possibly. But those games are so important, as we know. So I think we'll see him in bits and pieces. But if I was Hurley, and he's a smart guy, he's been around the game for a while. He's not going to be in any rush to put him out there and give him extended minutes, because I don't think there's a need for this team as constructed this year.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Let's just remember, and although I agree with you that Corey's coming in at a very loaded and deep backcourt, last time we had a player reclassify, did a little earlier than Corey did, but it was Adama. So that's definitely something to consider.
And before that, it was Cook, who came a semester early, and that really helped him jump right into the fold as a freshman. All right, guys, we're going to move into a rapid-fire section now. So do your best. Keep your answers to a word or a sentence max, and we're going to alternate between who we go to first. First question, who do you think will lead UConn in scoring this year?
RJ Cole.
Adama Sanogo, even though I'm conflicting myself, but I think Adama Sanogo at the end of all days.
Josh, I'm going to have to lean with you. I think RJ Cole's going to put up 15+. Jacob, you first. How many Big East wins will the Huskies have this year?
I'm going out of the 20. I'm 15-5. I'm bad at the one-word answers. So 15-5.
I go 14. They're going to lose a couple games. They're going to win a couple games randomly. 14 wins.
14-6, 15-5. I'm going 13-7. I think winning 15 league games, 14 league games, kind of a lot. When do you expect the season to end for UConn, Josh?
I think that they're making the tournament, and at that point, you never know. But I do think they're going to make the Big East championship game as well.
Agree with that. I think Sweet 16, Elite 8. Who knows how far this team can go?
I think it's going to be disappointing if they don't make it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. All right, next question. Jacob, you first. What game are you circling on your calendar as the best one of the season?
Got to be Nova. Jay Wright, they run the Big East. That team is going to be top 5 coming into the year.
Tuesday night at an XL in February.
Should be here.
Should be here.
Should be here.
Should be.
Guaranteed Nova. Not guaranteed. There is an option. Never know if we could see Baylor. That'd be pretty sick.
Baylor would be sweet for me. I would have said Providence if I was at Gamble Pavilion. But I don't know. Saturday, 5 p.m., last day of finals week at the XL. I don't know how many students are going to be there. I'm going to be there. But I don't know. That's tough. So for me, I don't know. I think St. John's at MSG is going to be sweet.
It's a home game.
It's literally a home game. You're right. All right. Lastly, give you a little bit of liberty on response length. A little more time, more than just a word or a sentence. But what are you most excited for as we approach basketball season?
You know the answer here. Everybody knows the answer. It's Gamble Pavilion. We're back. I mean, last season was great, but we weren't in Gamble. And to have that crowd back, to have the fans back, you see how it influences the team's play. And to have everyone, I'm excited, and to have everyone excited to be back in Gamble, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere that I think is going to help us win some games.
I'm just excited for the national exposure that we're going to get. So many games on national TV. I want the whole nation to see how good this team is. UConn is going to be back this year. We're back in Gamble. Can't wait to see Hurley a minute before the game, and because it hypes him up too, and that energy is contagious for the squad. I'm just excited to have fans back in the arenas.
For me, it's that non-conference game against Maryland, Eastern Shore, Long Beach State, Delaware borderline, whatever that school's called. No, but I have to agree with both of you. I mean, the student section at Gamble it's our happy place, right? I mean, it's why we came to UConn. Seeing that place rocking, rolling, not only for those early non-conference games, but once we get into Big East play for those Big East games, that is going to be sweet. It's been a long time coming. We've had to wait, a full season of play without being able to see the Huskies in Big East action. And it's just been a while since we've seen competitive basketball played here in Connecticut. Guys, this was a lot of fun. See you at first night on Friday night. Should be
Sir.
fun to see the Huskies back in
Gonna be a
action.
blast.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. No concert this year on first night. Maybe a little more basketball action.
I'm gonna miss T-Pain. That was epic. I'm
Who
sad.
they have before that? Ao and Teo.
Ayo and Teo.
Yeah.
Rolling. That was a song.
Anyways, for Josh Schlactus, for Jacob Sondik, I'm Noam Watt. Thanks for tuning in to our UConn men's basketball season preview. We'll continue to bring you coverage all throughout the season.